If the story of Dune Peninsula Park sounded familiar to you, it's probably because it should, if you are of course familiar with Gasworks Park on the north end of Lake Union. One of the absolute most favorite parks in all of Seattle actually also got its start as a toxic slag heap. Several decades, this was a gasification plant that created gas to power the city of Seattle. And then when it closed in the late 1950s, they had a problem where they're like, what do we do with all this toxic land that's been polluted for years? And as the old saying goes, if you can't lose it, reuse it. Which I don't think is something that anybody actually says. And in my personal opinion, it's actually a very clever plan because so much of the remediation process involves putting new soil on top of the contaminated soil to make sure that it doesn't leach out into the groundwater or affect people who walk over it. And the best way to do that is often to use public funds and create something that gives back to the community, unlike what it had been doing for several decades. So when it opened for the first time in 1975, Gasworks Park became a public play place and was no longer a blight on the city of Seattle. Now it's one of the most famous and favorable parks throughout the entire city. But it's always important to remember where we came from. After all, to quote my good friends Pippin and Meriadoc, the closer we are to danger, the further we are from harm.